So good morning, folks. Today we'll be mainly focused on this Credly assignment. Okay. The expectation actually was that people will go ahead and finish this, and then we can take up something else. Okay. Some of you have completed it, but most of you are stuck. Okay. So we'll be focusing on how to do it. Okay. And so the first half, hopefully, we are able to go ahead and use for wrapping up this assignment. Okay. Because I want everybody to go ahead and finish this, the Credly assignment. Okay. The second half, if we are able to finish this on time, then we'll be focused on bedrock agents. Okay. We'll kind of, go back to bedrock agents. So there is this last row team which has been preparing for the hackathon. Okay. So they have been putting together that solution, and I've been helping them also on the side. So they have a good solution. It is relatively complex. It will help for people to take a look at how it is implemented. Okay, and there are some changes over there. We have kind of left it like that. I will go ahead and try to fix some of the problems which are there. So that will help cover what needs to be done when we face issues. Okay, and we'll cover basics, very, very basics of AWS and maybe a little bit of UI, but not much. Okay. All right, so we'll take a look at this first. This is Samir's assignment. Okay, this was the closest to the finish line. Okay, very minor changes required over here. So what I'll do is I kind of go over the repo. I'll go over what he's presented. It's a very good model example. I have not gone ahead and implemented this. I told you all that. Okay, I just went ahead and did one small piece of this, the Selenium part of it, but the entire thing was left as an exercise. Okay. So now, see, the first thing that you come over here, you see is there is a README. Okay, this is what your repo should always have. Okay, LangGraph certification credit points agent goal. Okay, very good intelligent agent built with LangGraph. The processes Credly certification URL calculates credit point based on certification type and validity. Okay, so whenever somebody is coming to the repo, they will understand what it is about. Okay, the user interaction part. Okay, he's talking about how we will go ahead and get the LangGraph program to work. So there are two different ways, right? One is obviously you start LangGraph dev, which is your LangGraph studio person, right? It brings up that interface in Langsmith. Okay, and then you're able to go ahead and interact with your graph visually. Okay, the other one is you programmatically interact with it. Okay, you use Python and you just say, oh, here is the method, call it. Okay, you need to do the graph.invoke and all that. Okay, those are two methods which I have mentioned over here. Okay. And as we go along, and I'll kind of make some minor nitpicking comments. Okay, but nothing like against Samir, this is just about everybody. So in places like this, what I would also suggest is maybe put a backtick, okay, and even over here, okay, so that it kind of stands out as a separate thing. That's pretty much it. Otherwise, it's good. And people know Markdown, right? I'm assuming everybody knows Markdown. Okay. I can't edit it, so I won't be doing that. But maybe you can make some changes in between and keep doing so that we can take a look. Okay. Submit a query, users can ask following types of questions. So this is also important. You got to go ahead and have your requirements very clear. Maybe this query type one should be here. Okay, but otherwise good. Check credit points, and he's taken the exact stuff which was passed on, right? Because that is what everybody was supposed to go ahead and implement. Now, this was a point of contention for some folks. Okay, what I got in some of the submissions was, oh, here is the Credly URL. Oh, this is what is there on that page. That is good. That is not all that I was expected. I was saying that you also need to go ahead and answer this credit points part, okay, which Samir has actually implemented. Okay, what I mean by that is one tool was necessary in the overall system, which takes a look at the Credly page or the badges, either the profile or the badges page, get some information out using Selenium or the JSON path, whatever, but it gets that information. The second part is what was required to go ahead and build out your own proprietary database or data store. Okay, I'm just going to use that abstract term because you can do whatever you want to. You can store it in the file if you want. But I was saying that, kind of treat it like your own personal data, which Grok or Bedrock models or any of the GPT models don't have access to. this credit point information that I was talking about. Okay, you were not there last time, you were also not there. So I was saying that, hey, this is a real use case. Okay, this is not a fictitious one. This is something which in the company people are implementing right now. Okay, where I'm saying that, hey, if you have a foundation level certificate cleared, if you do that, then you earn 2.5 credit points. If you go ahead and get an intermediate level certificate, you get 5 credit points. If you get a professional or a specialty certification, you get 10 credit points. That information is not there in ChatGPT. It is not some fancy information. It is just some private information. You just go ahead and put it in some data store, like a RAG. Okay, some RAG, some database, whatever. It's up to you. I've already shown you a bunch of ways in which you can get that information out. Okay, the point is that your system should have access to it. My only condition was do not embed that in the prompt itself. That is like cheating. Okay, see over here that information is small. You can fit it in the prompt. I'm saying that keep it in a store somewhere where you're doing a retrieval. Okay, so that you understand that what if instead of 3, it was like 3,000 different rules. Then you can't push all of that into the prompt. Okay, that was my point. These are the conditions. And I deliberately didn't give you all exact steps because I want you all to think how can you implement it. There are like probably hundreds of ways in which you can implement that. I'll talk about some of those. Okay, but I want you all to go ahead and implement it. Because unless, see, if I go ahead and give you code like this is the code, you copy paste it, do it, then you have not learned anything. You with me? I'll give you code samples. Okay, and frankly, you can get Copilot and Claude and GPT to go ahead and create that code for you. The thought should come from you. And see, even the thought, you can go ahead and ask GPT to go ahead and help you. Like, what are 5 different ways? This is my requirement. Okay, but you need to be able to process that output which comes from Gen AI, review it and say, this is right, I accept it, or this is not right, I'm going to ask for some edits. You need to be in the pilot seat. You can't make Copilot a pilot. With me? Okay. So which is why I've intentionally left a lot of fill in the blanks. I've not given you like, oh, this, you put it in the SQLite, you go read from there. No, it's up to you. You all figure out. This is, for some of you, this might be the first time that you're playing the role of an architect. It's good exercise. Do it. It's not very hard. Okay. Okay. So now I've given you samples. Your LangGraph assignment. Okay, a LangGraph program, when you're done with it, if I ask it this exact question, it should give those answers. That is your check mark. Okay, whatever you're working towards. If I send it, this particular URL, okay, this is for my HashiCorp Terraform cert. If I send it that, it should go fetch that information. Step 1, right? It is fetching that information from the HashiCorp page, a web search using Selenium or whatever. Okay, it goes ahead and does that, gets that information, but then it doesn't know how many credit points to give. Got it? If you go to Claude and if you type in the same request, it will fail. It will be like, what credit points? I don't know what you're talking about. It will give you the information, HashiCorp and all that. It will not tell you anything about credit points. That is the intelligence that I want you to build in your system. Okay, and we'll take a look at some of the ways in which Samir has implemented, but over there also I have some feedback. Okay, it is not perfect as of now, which is good. Okay, good, because then you all will go ahead and think about how to do it. Okay, the second part is you are going to access your data store. Okay, this amorphous data store that I'm talking about, which has that information. बस ये certificate का इतना points है, this certificate this much points. You're gonna use that information, make an LLM call, and then you're going to be like, oh, this guy has a HashiCorp Terraform's associate certificate. We have to give him 2.5 credit points. How much credit points to give? I don't want to hear that question. Like, don't ask me like, for this certification, you decide. I have given you some guidelines. How much exact credit points to give for every certificate is not something that you have to match with my expectation. You have your own database. You give 7 credit points, 9 credit points, 13, doesn't matter. That is not the objective. You have defined some rules. You want your system to behave according to those rules. Okay, if in the same response, instead of 2.5, if you got 7, I frankly don't care. As long as your data store has that rule. It should not be something random. Like you configured 7 and it came as 49. That will not do. You got my point? Clear? Okay, now the second type of use case. Okay, over here, see the first one, the other part was the date validation also. That certificate that I had earned is in the past, it is expired now. Okay, so it is going to say that, hey, it's gone. But if it was valid, you would have stood to earn 2.5 credit points. The second one is a happy path, right? This is for AWS AI practice and this is still valid. It is going to say, oh, you'll get 2.5 credit points. The third one is not even a Credly one, right? I'm just going in and saying, hey, if I clear this certification, how many credit points will I get? So then in general, I'm talking about two different tools in your LangGraph application. One for doing a web search, the Credly part, one for accessing for cert to credit point mapping tool, right? This is going to access only the second tool. There is no Credly Wedly here. With me? Your LangGraph system is now able to go ahead and figure that out. This is a simple use case. You have to go ahead and try this out and build it out. It's simple. You can do it. But you have to understand first in your mind how this will happen. Got it? I am not going to give any code samples. It is not required. You all can build this on your own. Okay? Any questions about the requirements?
The first one is clear that it will go and tell you that whether it is expire or whatever. The second one, it tells that how much are clear and what are the credit funds.
The first and second are very similar. Here the cert has expired. Here the cert is still active.
And then it gives the credit fund.
Yes. It is just going to mention. I'm not asking that you go ahead and create a database for my credit points. Not required.
For the third one, I need to create a database where it goes, where I say that if I clear AWS solution architect professional, how many points I'll get. For that, I'll be required.
No, it will be required for all three, no? See, for all three, that is required. You need a mapping, no? Say if I ask you right now, AWS AI practitioner, how many credit points? You need some lookup, okay, where you go ahead and say, कि अच्छा, ये certification के लिए इतना points. So you need to maintain something like this. This is the cert name. This is credit points over here. Okay. You go ahead and put over here AWS CCP 2.5, AWS AI practitioner 2.5, HashiCorp Terraform associate 2.5, whatever, up to you. I'm saying ki don't come to me asking ki for which certificate how many points. That's up to you. Decide randomly. You keep 1000. I frankly not bothered. But you should have a data store. So I'm saying that your system needs to look up this. Okay. Now let's talk about where can you store this. I'll give you a couple of options. Keep it in the JSON file. Keep it in a small JSON file. Okay. A JSON file will be what? Like there's an array. This is an array, right? There'll be objects over here. Okay. There'll be objects over here. It's like cert name, AWS CCP, comma, credit points, number 2.5. Same thing again and again. Pairs. That is one option. Correct. It can fetch from there. You can write simple Python code for that. You can keep it in the CSV. You can keep it in the CSV, right? Okay, you just go ahead and have like, this is the Excel representation of it. But you get my point. Like this is the CSV. This is the comma part over here. You go ahead and put cert name, credit points. Okay, and then the actual values. Okay. You keep it in a property file. Okay, you keep it in a dot props file, just like you're keeping your Grok API key and all of that. You keep another property file and you just say, oh, AWS CCP equal to 2.5. AWS AI practitioner equal to 2.5. Okay, got it? Another way, you keep it in a database. Okay, you can use SQLite database. SQLite database is the easiest database to start off with. You just point to one file. Okay, you give it a name. You can keep it like zebra.db somewhere on your local. Okay, within the same folder wherever you have LangGraph. And you say ki isme table banao. Okay, create table. Okay, everybody knows how to create table. Same syntax, create table, cert point mapping. Give it 2 columns. Okay, and then over here in that table, you go ahead and put the same stuff you put over there. There are different ways in which you can implement your data store. Not bothered. Okay, which one you pick? You should be bothered, of course. Okay, you go ahead and figure out which one do you want to use. That is not the agentic part. You getting my point? This is the implementation that you do over here is not agentic. That is not LLM specific. That is something that you are picking. This is related to your tool. You go ahead and do however you want to. Pick one way is my point. I'm not going to keep this prescriptive. I'm not going to say ki, do it this way only. No, I'm leaving it as fill in the blank so that you go ahead, you think about it, you do it however you want to.
So this data files have volume certification.
Yeah, that is the simplest way. Yes, the actual certification it will get from the website. This will have like the name. Now see, I'll talk about some challenges. One is you get the actual name from my Credly page or whatever other Credly page. You put the exact names over here. Right? That will be the easiest option. Because if see I'm putting it as CCP over here. But if you do a lookup for CCP and I have like certified cloud practitioner, that will not be a match. With me? So then you'll need to use LLM for that. So instead of that, as of now, keep it simple. Keep this exactly matching with whatever is there on the Credly page. Okay. You make that call first, get the certification name, and then you put it over here. With me? Okay. So the implementations, you can do it whatever way you want, but you have to choose one. I want you to personally go over those implementation in your mind, pick one, and then follow through with that. Otherwise, this will become very difficult later on. With me? Okay. Okay, so the data store part is clear. Okay, now let's continue. Okay, so now view result. It's fine. Continue conversation. Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's some extra additional part that he has done. Okay, he's adding short-term memory over there, where he's saying that I'll take a look at conversation, see, keep on calculating how many points he's getting. Okay, that is optional. You all want to implement, you all do it. Okay, component if somebody doesn't understand, LangGraph Studio, LangGraph. Okay. Okay, so he's gone ahead and he's having these 2 tools. Everybody will pretty much have 2 tools. I'll be surprised if you have 1 tool. Okay, or if you have like 3 tools. Ideally speaking, you'll have 2 tools for this scenario. The second tool is up to you. You can go ahead and do it whatever way you want. Now he's chosen the way of SQLite. You all can do it whatever way you want. Okay. Okay, and the response generation and so on, state management, decision flow. Okay, now this is his way of doing stuff. But then he's thought about this. I have not given this particular path. He has thought of this and he has implemented. You all need to think of it, is my point. Good morning. Okay? Because see, there will be some new problem that we'll be working on where I will not be there with you. I'm preparing you for that world where I'm not there. You get my point? If I just give you code samples and say copy paste this, that's fine. There's no risk involved. You need to get to this point where you are doing this thinking on your own. You are going ahead and coming up with that. Okay. Okay. So I think this is fine. Okay, he has gone ahead and put in the other stuff over here, what to do, etc. And this is good. He's put triple backticks and Python and so on over there so that we are able to see that properly. Okay, and he's put the screenshots. Okay, like, hey, I call this is the answer that I got, and so on. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the screenshots. How many credit points can I get for that? He's used the exact same ones which I believe are used in the example. Okay, so he's saying, sorry, your credit cert has expired, you won't get any credit points, but you would have stood to obtain 5 credit. Exact same stuff. Okay, and over here also now what he's saying, the other one, the AI practitioner. So, 2.5 credit points. Okay, and over here, if I clear this, then it is saying credit points 10. You will get 10 credit points. Got it? So it is working. I'll still point out some of the areas where he'll be working on, and then the Langsmith thing. So this is what I'm expecting from everybody. Okay, your Git repo should look like this. With me? Okay, and we'll work towards this today itself. Okay. Okay, come to that. All right, sure. All right, we'll. Okay, so we'll take a look at some code. Okay. Now, before that, I'll show you this part. Okay, for people who want to use SQLite, it is not necessary that you use SQLite alone. You can do whatever you want. Like I mentioned, okay, for folks who came in a bit late, there are different ways in which you can do a cert name to credit point mapping. Take this, JSONify it. Okay, create a JSON file of this. Just read from that in your tool. You are going to need a tool in your LangGraph application, which will go ahead and say that, oh, this is the cert. How many credit points does this guy get for that? Okay, so you can create that in JSON. Got it? This is an array. This is the record. Got it? Clear? Not clear? Clear? Okay, you can put it in the CSV file. Okay, you can keep it in the property file. Like you are keeping grok API key equal to the actual key. Put it in your property file. You can keep it in your environment variables. See, I'm not saying that that is the right way, but for solving it, you can keep it whatever way you want, is my point. Environment variables, you all know how to read. Property file, you all know how to read, right? You just need to go ahead and put it somewhere. You don't need a database. Okay, you can, even if you want, put this in like a text file. Okay, in a text file saying that put full sentences. For AWS AI practitioner, you will get 2.5 credit points. For AWS solution architect professional, you will get 10 credit points. Embed your text file in AstraDB. Then you can do a RAG on it. You can do it. You getting my point? There are probably unlimited ways in which you can implement this lookup. But that is also the problem. Then you're like, where do I go? Which is where I'm not giving you the exact way. You figure out. I've given you a couple of options. Whichever option you pick, I'll come by and I'll try to help you all to go ahead and implement it. You have to make that decision. With me, there isn't just one way to implement this. I want you all to get that experience of like, oh, there were two options. I picked one and then I moved ahead. Okay. There is no right, wrong over here. Some are better or better suited. Okay. Like, keeping them in an environment variable is not the most right way. Okay. But it is fine. As long as it works, it is fine for this use case. We are not looking at the most elegant solution right now. It should work. It should be functional. Okay. We are going to take a look at the SQLite one. And just don't copy paste this because there are some issues over here. But I'm just going to teach you how to use SQLite. So SQLite is basically SQL Lite. Okay, there's a light form of a database. Usually what happens is if you want to use a database, you need a database server. So if you want to use MySQL, you need to install MySQL. You need to then set up a user password. You need to create a database on the database server. You need to create tables. You need to create content. Over here, you need to do all of those other steps except for two. You do not need to create a database server. You do not need to create your database credentials. Those two things are eliminated. So it becomes easier. You still need to create your tables and your content, but you do not need to set up a database server. So it is easier. What happens over here is very simple. Connection, SQLite, connect, whatever file name. You can put your path and all that, Zebra or DB, okay, whatever. That becomes your database. Got it? It is your database. There is no username, nothing. Okay. And then this is your cursor. Okay. Like, what happens is when you're reading from a database, there is something called as a result set. Okay. Like, for example, if you say search, select star from certifications, there will be a result set. There will be a cursor over there. Just like we have a cursor in our Word file, there will be a cursor in that result set where you go and say, oh, go to the next record, go to the previous record. Okay, that's why it's called as a cursor. Okay, it is where you are present right now. Like that cursor blinks in your word processor, right? If you didn't have a cursor, you'll be like, where exactly will the keys go? Okay, or the letters go when I type in the keys. Okay, it's like that. But it's saying, okay, where exactly in your database table is your control present, your reader present. Cursor execute. Very simple. First of all, you're creating a table. The if not exists is important over here because you'll run this program again and again, correct? If the table exists already, then this will throw an error. Okay, so that is why the if not exists is important. See, you know you don't need to memorize the syntax. You go to ChatGPT and all of that, it will give you the syntax by default. It is just creating a table called this. This name and this name need not match. This is the file name of the database. It can have one or more tables. It can have 0 or more tables actually. Okay, so this is one table that you're creating over there. You can call this abracadabra and keep calling this certification. Doesn't matter. Okay, there are two columns over here. Why? Because we have two columns to fill it, right? Cert name points. And that is where I'll stop. Okay, because that is where there are some issues. Okay, we had this other stuff, but ideally speaking, this should be AWS AI practitioner. Okay, 2.5, whatever. Those points should be there. And then he basically will go ahead and insert. Okay, insert into all of this. Okay, you got it? This is how you interact with SQLite. This is obviously the create table and the insert data. The read part will happen in your tool. In your tool, you'll go ahead and do something very similar to this, that connect and all that. But instead of create table or create content or insert content, you're basically going to read from it. Okay, over here. Okay, so see now what he's doing over here, same thing, connect, and then we are doing an execute select sort name point some certification data order. Okay, what should ideally happen would be that selects points from certification data where cert name equal to whatever was the value that you got from here, the cert name. So you have a table, then you're saying just read from this, get me those points. That is what you'll return. With me, you send it back to the agent and then the agent says, oh, respond, vagera and all that. This is what you need to do. Now, how do you approach this? I'm going to give some tips. First of all, you create your one tool which reads from Credly. I think most people have done that. Anybody who's facing an issue with reading from Credly, you're facing an issue with that. And your stuff also, I need to take a look because that wasn't correct. Okay, it was just some hardcore stuff over there. Okay. What about you? You have not done? Okay. All right. So focus on your tools first. Besides the two of them, anybody else who has issue in reading from the badge? You have read from the profile, but are you able to also read from the badge URL? So then you have to do that. I want to make that clear distinction. Okay, I'm not saying that, okay, you just read from the profile where every badge is present. I want you all to go ahead and handle this particular scenario. Okay, where I'm mentioning this, I'm mentioning a badge URL, not my profile URL. This badge URL, you can't read it using just beautiful soup. You can't read it. You will have to use Selenium or Playwright or some of those tools. You have to do that. Okay. The profile you are able to read through normal beautiful soup. This you won't be able to because there are JavaScript calls happening over there. You'll have to use Selenium. It's not that difficult. I showed you some sample the other day, I believe. Okay. Which one was it? Does anybody remember? Maybe this. Ah. So we have, where is this? Credly.py. No, not this. So there's a simple function over here which I had created. Okay. Obviously, it is like not hand coded the entire thing. I showed everybody this function last time, right on Sunday. Okay, so most of it was from Claude, but then I made some manual changes over there related to it. Okay, so I'll do a refresher on that. First of all, you just go ahead and provide that page to Claude. You go ahead and say that use Selenium to go ahead and pass these particular fields from it. Okay, it created most of the code. The portion which was messing up was this. It was not able to do this because it didn't have eyes. Okay, so I actually had to go ahead and inspect the page, figure out what is the class over here. You all remember this, right? People who came. Okay. For the two of you, you all at least get to that stage where you are able to recreate some portion of this code. Then you run this code separately. Okay. I also showed people how to go ahead and debug Python code. How many of you all remember that? Okay. All right. So debug Python code, you create your launch JSON. Okay. You create your launch JSON, you point it to your env and all of that. And then you go ahead and set your breakpoints over here by clicking here. Okay. And then you debug it. Okay. Very straightforward. Okay. So the thing is, see, just me showing things to you is like, fine. Okay. Ho gaya. But then you all need to do this. You all need to do this. You all will face challenges and then you all will remember it. Okay. So do that, please. Debug things so that you are able to figure out where things are failing. Okay, if you are just stuck in that loop, like, hey, I'm gonna send something to ChatGPT or Claude, ask it to keep revising stuff, and I'll keep revising my prompt till I get a code which works. No, that will not work. Okay, that is okay to go ahead and get like 70-80% of your code there. But then you have to be like, now I can take it to the finish line. I'll make whatever changes are required over there to get it to work. You all need to build that muscle. That is not going to happen with me just showing stuff. With me? Okay. All right. So step one, first create your tools over here. Okay. Create your tools, run those tools separately without line graph. Don't try to put everything together and say like, hey, is it going to work or not? Okay. If you're confident, do that. That's fine. My recommendation for people who are already like, I don't know, I'm going to do this. Focus on the small portion. Okay. Small portion. Get the tool to work. No? Forget the rest of it. Create a tool. Get that tool to work. The tool should get an input. Credly URL. Getting the data out. Focus on like, oh, here is a cert name. I'm going to get the credit points. Focus on that inch by inch. Okay. We'll get there. Focus on getting the tools working. Then you go ahead and hook the tools into your line graph. Then you make that work and then you try out for the different scenarios. These are your two basic steps. Okay. Now, anybody who's stuck with this, focus on the first tool. The first tool, which is getting this information from the Credly badge. Start working. Okay. Very simple. There's a Credly badge URL. Your tool is going to make that call to that URL, get information from that page. How many people have already done that? From the badge URL also? Badge URL. Check the code, no? Check the code. If there is Selenium word over there, it is using Selenium. Figure out now which project you are working in right now. Is your tool working right now? Let's go step by step. Get your tool to work. Show me. Okay, once you have it ready running. So what are you planning to do today then? Create it. Create that tool again. Okay. Who needs help? What have you done so far? Okay. Whoever needs help, first go ahead and set up a simple Python project. Okay, where you have the Python code running. Even if there is nothing else, but at least a print statement. Okay, get that working and then call me. I mentioned this last time. So what I done was I just created two functions in a separate file. Okay, so that's why I'm dealing with simplicity over here, not complexity. Okay, there's a very simple one, simple file, no lang graph, nothing. I'm just focused on creating the tool. This is that tool. There is nothing else over here. There is a function which takes an URL, prints something out. And in main, I'm just going in and calling it. That's all. Right. Record it. Yeah. Okay, so for people who are getting started with SQLite, if that is what you want to go ahead and try out. Okay, so I'm just showing you. See what happens when you go to Chat GPT or Claude, you get like a lot of code at one point. It becomes that is like a sledgehammer. Okay, it creates a lot of content in one go, but then you're also sacrificing control for that convenience. Sometimes it's easier to go ahead and use like a small screwdriver or a scalpel. Okay, but then you also need to understand what to make change. Okay, I would prefer to go ahead and use something in the editor rather than on the browser. You with me on that point? Or this is how you would do. Okay, so first of all, you'll need to know some parts of it. Okay, so I'm saying that hey, import SQLite. This is a library that I've created a new file. Now it is saying some stuff over there. I'm not going to go ahead with that. Okay, I'm going to provide my instructions using inline comments. Okay. So I'll say mention the file where the SQLite database will be stored. Okay, fine. Okay, so now it is with me. Now I will still not accept that. I'll go ahead and say, okay, this is good, correct. Okay, what is saying? Okay, I was going to say that, same stuff, connect to the SQLite and all of that. Why is this so annoying? Okay. All right, so you come over here, you go ahead and do that. Okay, but I actually don't like the way in which this is happening. Okay, so let's create a method. Okay, so connect DB is fine. Okay, and then let's create a table in the database. That also actually makes sense. Okay, but then that is not the table that I want. You see, I'm taking back control at some point. I'm saying, no, see, it is just saying create table if not exists some ID, name, age, because I have not given it the context. So I'm not going to accept that. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to say, okay, fine with me. See, you're now then able to intercheck. This is the human in the loop, right? So it is obviously it can't read my mind. It doesn't know what I'm here for. So I'm kind of taking back control every now and then and saying, Acha, no, not that. You're going off rails. Come back. This is what I want. Okay, and then I'm doing this stuff. Okay, fair enough. Okay, now let's go ahead and try this out. How do we do that? We'll be here. Let me check if I'm in the right folder. This is an LG revised. My stuff is over here in level 2 SQLite. Okay, so I have to go there, right? Okay, let me go ahead and create a new environment. Do I have an environment over here? I think I do. I think there is an ENV already over there. Let me go ahead and activate that then. Okay. Okay, with me. Now we'll go ahead and install that SQLite 3, right? Because that was not there in the requirement. So let me go ahead and add it. That's a better way actually. Okay, I'll go over here. Let's do that. SQLite is it, right? Okay, I don't know, no matching distribution from the SQLite. Let me see. Okay, let's ask over here itself. Where is my file? Let me close the ones which I don't need. Okay, so it is already there in Python standard library. Okay, so I don't need that. Okay, all right, good enough. Okay, so we are here. Now let's go ahead and run the tool. Okay, Python SQLite test.py. Okay, there was nothing supposed to be printed out, so it has not done anything. Now let's do SQLite open database, choose database from file. My God. And which one was it? Let me see, where did I go ahead and create that? Test database. Let me go ahead and put this. It created over here. No, it did not create one, right? Let me run this again. Let me put the full path. Okay. Still not there. Hold on. Let's ask it. Okay. Okay, I saw my issue. So the thing is that I have not called the functions. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Okay. All right. So what I'm saying is that the functions are there, but I need to call them. I'll connect to a database. I'll create the table. Okay, let's do this once again. Table created successfully. Okay, now it should be there. Let's do an ls. What was it? Test something, right? It is there. Okay, so now let's go ahead and open this up. Open database. It is looking for the .db extensions. Why is this guy not opening up that? I'm going to try this other one, the Florian one. So usually you'll find that there are multiple extensions available for the same purpose. Okay, I'm just going to try this one. I don't know what is wrong with the other guy. Okay, usually if you install it, it's good option to go ahead and do a Control Shift P, reload the window. Okay, it is like a refresh. Okay, so now let's try this out. Let's check out what is this guy doing. Just click on a, okay, so let's see that. So we have it over here. Okay, so this is much easier. I just clicked on it and it shows up. Okay, so it is here now. Okay, now I can make whatever entries that I want over here, right? And let's see, does this guy allow some SQL? Okay. So now let's go ahead and make entries through code itself. Okay. So we'll create another function and now I'll define it. Okay. So this is how I usually do it. I'll go ahead and mention what is required, right? And frankly, I don't put a comment first. Okay. I'll put a comment. I'll use a doc string. Okay. So let's call it populate data. Okay. Okay. So it has actually understood based upon whatever was there earlier. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this, but I don't want all of this. I'm going to remove this. Okay. I'm going to ignore that. Function to populate data into, insert into. Okay. Let me modify this. Okay. And was this integer earlier? Ah. Okay. So now see, this is also wrong. Okay. I didn't do a proper review earlier. Okay. So this was cert ID, point ID, both are integers. But we are actually not looking at integers for either of the fields. The decimal part, okay, that should be a float. Okay. So that's fine. We'll just go ahead and get rid of this. So this is where, coding assistants are easy because we can get them to write code for us faster. Okay. So we'll call this sort name. Okay. Now I'm just going to call this something else. Okay. Because that was already there. Okay. Now we can drop that table if required, but I'm not doing all of that. Okay. Okay. So we have this now. Let's go ahead and run this. Let's look at our, let's refresh this guy. Oh, okay. Let me go ahead and insert this as well. Okay. Should be fine. Okay. We are here. Let's go ahead and test this out now. Okay. So the second table is there. Okay. And the values are there. Okay. Now some sample code. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at this once again. Now we want to go ahead and create a tool which will actually, based upon the name, go ahead and get the values out. Okay. So let's write that. Get, yep. Come again. If there is a certification for which the name is not there. So that you can add in the logic. It's up to you. Yeah. So it's up to you, right? You can go ahead and define it however you want to. So this is roughly what it looks like, what I want. Okay. I'm writing that now. Okay. So when we go ahead and do a lookup, if it is not there, we can go ahead and have that. Okay. So now, see, the other point is that this connection is always being passed on here and there. We can go ahead and keep this somewhere else. Okay. That's up to you, however you want to define it. Now, the point that Sumita is making, let's first go ahead and try this out. Okay. And I'm going to comment this out because this is no longer needed. I don't want to go ahead and create it again and again. Okay. I'm going to, yeah. Okay. Okay. So this is fine, right? Let's go ahead and try this out. AWS AI practitioner, I think that was there, right? 2.5. Let's go ahead over here. Let's see this. 2.5. We don't need to create the table also again and again. I'm just going to comment that out, right? We can just remove it, frankly. Okay. Okay. So 2.5. Now, her point is that for something which is not present over there, what will happen? Right. So now, for example, okay, let's see. There is nothing being returned, right? So how do we fix that? We go over here. Okay, get points for cert. This is happening. If results, we are going ahead and sending that. Otherwise, we're returning none. So we can go ahead and return 2.5. Got it? So it is code. You can go ahead and make it adapt to your logic, whatever way you want. And now with tools like Copilot and all that, see, you don't need to understand the syntax in depth. You can just go ahead and say, oh, this is what I want. You type it out in English. It will do that. But that typing out is you. If you just go ahead and accept by default whatever that comes up, then you don't have the control. Okay. It can't go ahead and exactly print out code for which you have not specified the requirement. So this is much more reliable way of using AI to go ahead and create code for you rather than going to ChatGPT and saying, this is what I want. oh, then it didn't work. Then let me go ahead and revise the prompt. No, no, no. This is better. ChatGPT way will get you like, maybe 70, 80% of it. Sometimes for simple thing, it will give you the 100% match also. But if you want fine-grained control, you'll have to do like this. Got my point? So now you then have this, right? Now we have the lookup done. Now you go ahead and create this as a tool. Go to LangGraph, add it over there. We are okay, right? Doing this. Mhm. So is it working now? Whichever way. Go through the code, no? Go through the code and figure out. Okay. So this will be your second tool. You do not need to run the populate table again and again. Okay. That is required only once. Then you go ahead and just create this Stinto tool, right? Get points for cert. Now you take this. Okay. For example, I just take this now. Okay. And there is this over here, right? Level 3. Just like we have these other tools. Okay. Like get weather. You go ahead and put that. Hook that up. Add that to your create React agent. We're done. Do it. Data.json. We're just going to keep it like this. Okay, we're going to keep it. And let's read this now. Okay, seems reasonable. Okay, let's go ahead and call this function also. Okay, got it right. Okay, very simple. See, I needed to kind of step in very little actually for this, not much. It doesn't have a tendency to apparently create functions. It was just typing in code. That is pretty much the only thing which I did. And then after that, I got. But now it doesn't know what I need to do with it. So I will come back over here once again. Okay, so we are reading from JSON file. We are storing it here in data. Okay, and then it is returning that data over here, right? Data dictionary. Now we need to go ahead and actually read the certificate name, right? So what was it exactly that she had? Okay, let's use the actual one and get credit points. Hey, morning. Okay, so it is getting the certificate name, it is getting a data dictionary, it is going to return this. It is not complete. What is needed now? I need to call that right over here. Okay, I don't want the else and all that. Okay, and this has AWS certified solutions architect, it is there. Let's go ahead and call this. Didn't work. Why didn't it work? Let's see. Okay, so when you get an error like this, see, look for the line number. Okay, so line 23. Line 23. This is where it is failing. Okay, so it thought that it is a list, but it is not. Okay, so what exactly is this? This is an, okay, this is an array, but in that, we have to go through all of the objects and then actually go do a match on certificate name and do that. So it will not work that way. Now, one way to fix this is we can remove this array and just make it a dictionary and so on. But then let's not do it. We'll try to fix it this way itself. Okay, so you got it right. It's a list. We can't just directly go and give it a value and say. We have to say that, hey, go iterate over all of the elements, get it. Remove this. I'm going to remove this also. Okay, 3.5. Let's see if that is correct. That's right. Got my point? So now, yes, this seems difficult, right? But it is still much sane to actually do this rather than saying that, go to ChatGPT, figure out something happened, try it again and all that. This is the human in the loop method of doing stuff. Okay, you're going in, you're seeing, okay, what is happening, you're making small corrections, you're understanding. You're not relinquishing your control. Okay, you're not making Copilot the pilot, mainly. Okay, so now we made this, right? So the tool is ready over here. Once again, this credit point stuff. You can go ahead and package it in your line graph. Okay. All right. So for people who need some help on the Selenium part of it, so I'll just show you that, and I'll share this code also in chat. Okay, but I want you all to go ahead and try it out. Okay. See, this was just some base code which I got from Claude. Okay, where I just passed in the URL and then I got this. Okay, so let's do this from scratch now. Okay, even though I have this working right now. Okay, I'll do it from scratch so that I show you all how to do this. Okay, so the goal is this. I gave it a URL. Okay, let's go ahead and show you this. Okay, so I gave it the URL over here. Okay, and then it is going to print all of this badge information. Okay, but we will start from scratch. Okay, we'll just save this here somewhere. Okay, so we are going to start with this. We will go to Claude. This time I'm using Claude. Why? Because it actually has web browser capabilities. Okay, so it can analyze the web page to a certain extent, can give me some code which will be easier for me to use rather than doing everything through hand. Okay. We can, but then GitHub Copilot does not have web browser capability as of now. I can go ahead and add an MCP for it and all that, but Claude already has that. So in a way, it is easier for that. Okay, so let me show you how to do that. Okay, so I'm going to say, okay, and then I want to ensure that browser MPC is there. MCP actually is not needed for this. That's just for some other fancy stuff where it can control my browser. But web search is there. Browser MCP might not be there on your instance if you have not actually installed that MCP. Okay, but web search should be enabled so that you can actually go over there. Let's see what it creates. Okay, so it has created some stuff. Let's go over here. Let's review this first before you even go and run it. Selenium WebDriver, all that is fine. I'm going to go to main and see what is happening. Provided that URL over here, it is saying pass Credly badge. It is storing that into some sort of a dictionary, okay, where it is just going to say, okay, whatever key values there, print it out. This is much different from what I had over here in terms of the printing aspect, but which is fine. We're not bothered. Okay, as long as all of the information gets in. So now let's see what is it doing. WebDriver, Chrome, fine. Is going to wait for 10 seconds. Okay, it's gonna find these classes. It's gonna print. I'm assuming that most of this is gonna fail. Okay, it's going to fail for the issue date and all of that. Expiration date, I'm pretty sure it will fail. Okay, let's see, but right. Okay, so Python, Selenium. Okay, let's go ahead and install this first. What was it? Selenium, right? Let me check my other requirements file. Is that only? Just that. I had created two virtual environments in the same folder. Okay, which is why I'm having that issue. Okay. What happened over here? Oh, God. I can't have this as Selenium. Okay, I'll just go ahead and change the name. Okay, my mistake. Um, okay, and it messed up this also now. Okay. See, I named it based on that it got confused, which is Selenium and all that. To win. Okay, so it will obviously it's going to do this. This is the non-headless version. Okay, I don't know why it did that. Okay, the first thing I'm going to say not to do that. Okay, so you understood what happens. Selenium does this. It is meant for doing this actually, where it opens up the browser and does all of that. But we don't want that. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. Headless means that it will not actually open up the application for you. Okay, so it is just going to add that. I don't want to do that by hand. Okay. Ran the wrong command. Yes, loading badge. Okay. Okay, so this was anyway supposed to fail. Okay, all of those IDs will not come through. Let me increase the timeout, but I think it failed because of that. Okay, let me go ahead and keep it as 60. In the meanwhile, I'll open that page also. Okay, I believe this is what I mentioned. Now I'll go for this particular cert name. Okay, I'll click over here. I'll do inspect element. Okay, or you can just go ahead and do inspect element. You can use this crosshair part to go over here. Okay, so now we are inside the DOM, the HTML part of it. So now there is a tag, there is H1, there is a class, and all of that. We'll wait and see what happened over here. This guy, but it's still loading batch page. What is it doing? Okay, page took too long to load. I don't know why that page is taking too long. What do we have over here? I'm just going to modify that with this guy. Hold on. Okay, so it is waiting for this. That is why it is failing. Right? Okay. Looking for something which has a class name of badge title. But I don't think it has something like that. Let's see. It doesn't have a badge title and all that. Okay, and I'll just show some other stuff. Okay, so over here you can go to console. Okay, you can do a control L or a command L to go ahead and clear your stuff. You can do something like document dot get, and then there are a bunch of methods which are available. This is JavaScript now. Okay, but this is how we can go ahead and figure out elements. Okay, so there is something like get elements by class name. This is your CSS class. Okay, what was this dude over here? The class name is this. Sorry, we will hard code for it. Yeah, something like that. So over here, this is just for validation, like, hey, is that class name working and all that. So you saw this document.get element by class name. If I put the exact CSS classes over here, the DOM will actually go ahead and figure that out. Okay. You obviously have other methods also over here, which is like document.get element by ID, which is when then if you have an ID, you can use that. Do we have IDs over here anywhere? This guy is there. Root is there. Okay, so let's check that. Okay, you got it. Main ID root. Okay, we can get elements by tag name. Get elements by tag name. This will return an array, of course, because there could be more than one element with the same tag. Okay, depend ID is supposed to be just one. Okay, people can actually go ahead and create an HTML page with multiple elements having the same ID, but it's not recommended. Okay, so now what do we want? Let's go after this. So this is an H1 with this class, right? So let's go over here. Element located by class name. Okay, we're going to choose that. I'm not going to have the other stuff as of now. I'm just going to remove all of this. Okay. Okay, only the badge name. Let me see. What else do we have? See reading. This should ideally go ahead and print at least the badge name, right? Compound class names are not allowed. Okay. So we'll try a different way. So what worked over here will not work over here. Okay. Let's go ahead and change this. Okay. So that's all that I'm doing over here. Why is that happening? Let's go for this then. Okay. Compound class names are not being allowed. We'll go for the div, which is containing that, and then we'll still get it. Okay. So now I'll just modify this. I can do this manually. Div. Okay. This might not work. We'll see. Because it is not directly text. Now what is happening? Okay. It's failing because of this guy. So I'll just go ahead and I didn't notice that. Uh, okay, so we're going to replace that. Okay, got my point. Okay, so it is not going to be like perfect that you get it on the first time and all that. Okay, so now we got this right. Now we'll go for something else. Okay, so let's see. We want, say this guy. Okay, we want the name. Okay, so let's go ahead and select this. Now what is over here? So this is where you have to kind of manually figure out a little bit. What is this guy? This is having a P and this is a class. Sorry. How do I go to that? You're saying? Like I use the crosshair and then you can just, you'd have to go ahead and navigate. That's it. Exactly. So I went over here. So now I see that, oh, there is a P and there is a class. Okay. So let's copy this. Okay. Now I'm going to say, what was that? Issuer name, certificate holder name, right? So extract cert holder name. And then I'm going to say present inside up. Okay. That I don't know whether it is the right class or not. I'm going to put mine. It was right actually. Okay, so it got that. Okay, so now it got this cert holder name, badge details, certificate holder. Okay, so seems to be right. Okay, seems to be right. And I don't need to modify anything at the bottom because it is printing all the keys. Okay, so let's go here, try this. Didn't come. Okay, it didn't come. Let's see. So let's see now what is happening over here. Oh, I made a mistake over here. Okay. I actually added it after return, which is why it was grayed out. Okay. So I'll put it over here. Okay. Fair enough. So now this should be fine. Let's try this out. Okay. Got it? Fairly simple, right? So you just go for the elements like that and get it done. Okay, now some of the complex ones. Okay, so over here, this one was slightly weird. Okay, date issued. Okay, so date issued over here. This is issued is under this P tag, which doesn't have like any ID or class. It's just there. It just exists. Okay, there is no nothing. Okay, and then this expiration is there under something. Okay, so then how do we handle this? Let's check that out. Okay, so now see, once again, I'll show you this using JavaScript first. So document dot get element by class name, right? So we got this guy, right? We got this one. There is just one. Now there is something called, hold on. We'll go over here. We'll first get this element here. Then I'll show you. Won't make that mistake again. Issue date and expiration date. Okay. Let's see if this guy is working first of all. Okay, if it does, then I don't need to do my minor changes. Didn't work. Okay, you got it right. So this is have to happen at some point. You know, it just suggested some code, and then we are like, oh, it should work. It didn't work, and that was my expectation that that element over there does not even have an ID. How is this div CR and all that going to? It's not going to work. Okay, so let's understand then. For the expiration, where is it? Is in span CSS class. This guy. So we know how to do that now, right? So we'll say CSS. This is span. Okay, it is going to find this guy first. I'm going to get rid of all of this because I don't know what it is trying to do. Okay, and this is also wrong. I'm just going to print out all of this text. Okay, so I'm going to mention that. Alright. It is very adamant. No, I have to get issue date from there only. It is not there. It is not there. But no, it has to do it for some reason. I don't know why. Issue text. Um, this is where sometimes people just go ahead and deactivate GitHub Copilot suggestions also. They're like, this will become too annoying. Okay, so we're just gonna keep that. Let's see what it reads. It should ideally be the expiration date over there. Okay. You got my point, right? What is happening over here? We went after the span with that particular class. We're getting all of the items over there. Issue and expiration, expires, whatever. Okay. This should not be issue and expiration. You get my point? The details are there. Okay, so now we've got the expiration part. Now I need to go one element before that. Okay, so let's do that. Let's try to do it using GitHub Copilot itself. Okay. So we already have this element over here. Now we'll go ahead and say, I'm going to change this by hand. not going to rely on that guy. Let's try this out. Okay, I don't know whether it is correct or not. Preceding sibling span 1. Is that a span? That is not a span. Okay, it is not. Okay, so this is going to be wrong. Okay, let's try this out. Yeah. Now both are not there. Okay, hold on. Okay, so this guy failed. Okay, you understood why both have become not applicable, not available, because this failed. Okay, and that actually then messed up. It is like, oh, even the previous one is messed up. So it is just going to store the NA part over there. Okay, so now let's take a look at this guy. Okay, let me copy this outer HTML. Okay, so there'll be copy. You copy this. Let's go to Claude and let's say, okay. Hmm. Okay, so it is not doing it in the way that I want it to. It is saying that it will use a reg expression and all that, but that is that can mess up. Okay, in the future there could be something else and all that. I don't want to do that. Let me do something else. Uh, let's see what it has written. Okay, so let's try this guy. Okay, whether this is right. So we'll go back here. We'll paste this. We'll fix the indentation. Remember that in Python, your indentation is very important. Okay, so yes, this should not be span element. This should be whatever this guy was. Okay, we'll see full element. Let's just put this as of now. I think it will have both the P and this span part also, but let's just try it out. Okay, seems right, right? We got the details part. We are going previous ancestor, a P. We should be able to do this. Let's see. Oh, that didn't work. Let me see. Where is it failing basically? Let's see. Error list object has no attribute. I think it's failed on something else. Oh no, driver is missing. No? Driver part is missing. Let's try that. Okay. I think that was a list. So maybe because of that also. We have to go to the element over there and then figure out. String object has no attribute. Okay, let's see this. Okay. All right. So finally we have that. So you got my point, right? See, you will have to kind of, get into the nitty-gritties of the code, figure out what is happening, understand what Copilot suggested, make some changes and so on. Finally, you'll get it. See now over here also, if you look at it, it is like issue date actually has date issued and expires both. But which is like fine, the LLM can go ahead and handle that later on. Once you get this content and just push it to LLM later on in your lang graph, over there it will be able to go ahead and figure out all of this, make sense out of it. Okay, so now I don't need to have, say, this expiration part. Okay, so this, I don't need this at all. Okay, I can remove this completely. Okay, I'll just say that I'll just call this dates, right? I'll just call this dates and I'll put this dates. I'll remove this. Okay, it will still be printed on 2 lines. Then we can go ahead and fix that also. Okay, so got it. Dates, date issued, and this, right? And we can go ahead and change this now. Okay. Okay. All right. Got it. See, it does get confused at times. It will be like, oh, earlier it was an element, then later it became a string and all that. But which is fine, which is where you need to develop that ability to kind of go through the code, figure out what changes you need to make. It is not always going to be 100% correct. With me? Okay, so now see in this particular tool that we have created, it is able to go ahead and get the issuer, who was it issued by, what is the certificate name, who holds this, the date issued and expired. So you got all the relevant information. Now you basically just need to hook this up into your lang graph, push this node over there, have your LLM go through this, get this cert part. I've given some samples, do it that way, right? I'll share this code also in chat.